This innocent-looking pie is a pawn in a pie fight.
Let New York have the pizza. Give us the key lime pie.
The signs are everywhere.
Key lime pie.
The question is, how real is it? What is it? Something's going on. Something's being covered up. It needs to be investigated.
Well, it's an extremely good question.
You can't handle the truth.
Hey guys and gals, welcome back to your favorite podcast, That Would Be Rad, the podcast that majors in 80s and 90s nostalgia, comic culture, all things paranormal, and minors in retro video games, tabletop RPGs, pre-internet mysteries, and raising our kids to be half as cool as we were back in the 80s. I'm your host, Tyler Bentz, and this is your other host,
Woody Brown.
Hey, pal.
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm staring at a stranger right now, you know?
I know. I
mean,
I feel like a stranger.
It feels good to be both of us back in.
Mm-hmm.
These wonderful walls, and boy, oh boy, I mean, it's just just wild, dude.
I'm back from Aspen, and you're back to the land of the living because you guys were sick. So,
yeah, well, I don't even want to think about that anymore, man. You know, every single week we talk about, or in our intro, you know, we talk about pre-internet mysteries. The problem is, there's some mysteries in the early days of the internet that we just have to talk about.
Yeah, it's funny too. It's funny you say that because I consider, like, this is one of those that I told you about forever ago.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even though technically, I mean, everything about this mystery is related to the internet,
mm-hmm.
I still lump it into pre-internet mysteries.
Yeah. There's something about, especially when you see like the logo of the store and stuff like that, that just brings you right back to, hey, we're in a new town. Mm-hmm. Let me see that, you know, the yellow pages and everything so that I can find what's a good pizza. In fact, I think the first time we went to New York, do you remember? We would get the yellow pages and be like, man, what's a cool place near us? Because like it was still the early days of internet usage and Ask Jeeves, you know, and that kind of thing. Yeah. Now, part of the reason I think you told me about this mystery so long ago was, and I'm going to just go ahead and broadcast this to the world just in case they're wondering, key lime pie happens to be my all-time favorite dessert. And I'm pretty sure probably when we were playing in Florida at some point, you're like, you know, there's this place that has really cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we asked Jeeves, and he didn't know. So
he came out with his like suit and tails, his tux.
Yeah.
And he opened the silver platter and there was nothing in there.
There was nothing in there. No key lime pie for me, man.
No.
But like you said, this type of mystery has those same elements. And listeners, you're going to understand what we mean by that. So while it's not technically a pre-internet mystery, it is one that still has that vibe. And you'll be able to tell why we are so intrigued by it.
Well, also, real quick, I think we should also say, because there's several that are like this. Like there's the Cicada 3301, Toynbee tiles.
Both of which we haven't done yet, but we will.
Yeah, we definitely are. The
Lake City Quiet Pills, which we have talked about.
Yeah, Lake City Quiet Pills. Gary Sudbrink was another one that was sort of that early area. I guess what we really mean is like pre-social media. It's when it was when like the internet was kind of like the Wild West.
Sure. And in some
it was
ways
very
it
like,
still is, but it's like it's new construction internet back then, you know. It's like shaky walls, and you could kind of accidentally, oops-a-daisies, here we are.
Yeah.
You know, we had, hey man, that's awesome that they released some of those new files, but we already had them because we were on AOL.com back in the day, and we already had those things downloaded.
Well, and also it was pre-dead internet theory, which
everything was alive.
Everything was alive, and there were like a million pages of something, whereas now it gives the appearance that there's a million pages, but then you go to like, you know, the third O in Google, and it comes to an end.
Yep. Third O in Google.
You know how it says like Google, and then you're clicking on the different O's? You don't know what I'm talking about?
They sure don't.
Okay, well, let's move on.
Anyway, now we just changed this episode to how many O's there are in the word Google. Okay, so check this out, folks. Somewhere out there, hidden in the depths of the internet, it's still alive. It's not in the dead internet. There's this strange and persistent mystery that's been unfolding for years across countless websites. Someone or something has been leaving bizarre, rambling comments about key lime pie from a restaurant that's been closed for over a decade. Now, on the surface, that sounds like one of those things that someone would then answer. If and that was all I said, someone would say, who cares?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's, as we'll see, it's so much more than that because there's this mystery about who's behind these messages. Why are they so obsessed with this one specific pie? Is it really that good? I mean, Lord knows I would love to have what someone would consider the best key lime pie. But one of the strangest questions of all is why are these comments popping up in really unexpected places? From food blogs to movie reviews and even obituaries. So today, we're diving into the rad but absolutely weird rabbit trail of Captain Kutchie's key lime pies.
Yes. Let me say before we move on, this is one that, if I'm being honest, I mean, I mentioned this story and this sort of, I don't know, what would you call it? Urban legend maybe.
Yeah.
Forever ago. But it was one of those that was like, I was also kind of on the fence of, is this too, not mundane, but is there enough to this? I mean, there's a ton of like posts and a ton of like weirdness involved, but then, you pull back to your 30,000 foot view and to look at it, and it's like, oh, it's just like reviews for like some key lime pie restaurant that may or may not have existed.
Right.
But man, once you dig in though, I just feel like we have to. It's just,
And there are times when you feel like, even whenever I was researching this and stuff, there's times, just like you said, where you feel like it's just somebody being weird for the sake of it, and then not, it seems deeper than that, and then it goes back to, well, what does it all mean, Basil?
I knew it was coming. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and also we got to remember, just before we get going, we got to remember that we're viewing this through the lens of what was the year? What was the first?
2009, I think, is when the first key lime pie comments started appearing online.
Okay, and that doesn't seem very long ago for old folks like Woody and I, but it's a pretty long time ago in the the internet sphere, if you will. And things were so different back then. So,
yeah. So just kind of view this mystery through that lens, I think is what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So at the heart of this bizarre internet enigma, like Tyler was saying, are the other comments themselves. Not just a few, not just a handful of websites, but thousands of rambling, almost, when you read them, and I'm going to read a few later, but it's almost like this weird stream of consciousness writing that are in these posts that are just scattered across the web, all obsessively praising this Captain Kutchie's world-famous key lime pie.
Yeah.
Now, if this was just a case of a diehard fan sort of waxing poetic about their favorite dessert, that'd be one thing. But here's where it gets weird. The restaurant that supposedly served this legendary pie has been closed for well over a decade, but yet the comments keep coming. So you got to wonder, who is this person that is the key lime pie prophet, this expert, preaching this gospel of Kuthchie's dessert to every corner of the internet? And also, like, why?
Yeah.
Again, that would be sort of, I guess, head-scratching enough, but not really extremely exciting, right? But the comments don't just stop at the pie. This KLP poster, and that's kind of how the internet has sort of come to call them, the KLP poster, frequently references other menu items. most notably the Goody Goody cheeseburgers, which they claim are the original cheeseburgers in paradise.
Right.
Now, I think we've said this before on the show. I think when we were doing one of our sort of mixtape episodes when we're talking about songs and stuff like that, I never really was the biggest sort of Jimmy Buffett fan growing up. I've become a fan of some of his songs later in life.
Oh, yeah.
But I know, Tyler, you loved him, right?
Well, actually, I hated him.
Okay.
Because my stepdad, Rick, who passed away, rest in peace, him and I just butted heads like crazy growing up. And he had this rule that we would go to the Florida Keys every year. And so we would pass over the bridge getting into the Keys. I think it was around Isla Mirada. And speaking of, there's actually an awesome key lime pie place down there. But
here we go.
Yeah. But he had this rule, and this was starting when I was like, I don't know, maybe 6 or so, where the only thing we were allowed to listen to were Bob Marley and Jimmy Buffett. And I kind of liked Bob Marley. And again, I'm like a kid, so, I'm like wanting to listen to like
Papa Roach.
No, this is way before that. This would have been like Rock the Cradle of Love, Billy Idol, MTV Days, Faith No More. And so I could have cared less about, just Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
But anyway, now there's a song called A Pirate Looks at 40, Son of a Sailor, that like I cannot listen to them without just like tearing up thinking about my stepdad.
Yeah,
so.
and I mean, I think it's part of just getting older, man. You start liking older stuff, thinking, there's some importance, and as a kid, you can't, there's no way you could, you
just don't see it.
You just don't want to listen to that,
Yeah.
I mean, my mom was all into the
Papa Roach,
the Judds, and I just wanted to listen to like Rage Against the Machine or something. No, never Papa Roach. What a name. Okay,
the worst.
So the reason I brought that up is, of course, the phrase cheeseburgers in paradise, and it's a Jimmy Buffett lyric, it's a song, but there's a question too: did Buffett himself ever eat there? Did he get his sort of cheeseburger inspiration from Kuthchie's, or is this just another strange thread in this tangled web? And here's kind of where things get even stranger, because you'd expect these comments to appear, on food blogs, restaurant review sites, maybe a Reddit thread eventually, but like I'm thinking even like
this was way before.
Yelp, and maybe even Google reviews, maybe even Ask Jeeves himself.
Right.
But like I said earlier, these comments about this stuff was appearing everywhere. Movie review websites about movies that had nothing to do with this, news articles, recipe blogs, obituaries, man.
And I don't want to bury the lead here also, but you start seeing patterns in the particular reviews as far as like certain like letters, like uppercase, lowercase, usage of like punctuation, like, so, do with that with what you will, I guess.
Yeah. And I was able to find this person that ran like a text analysis. And this is what's kind of cool about these mysteries that have occurred in the past. We can now utilize things that can sort of analyze something that would take us, God knows how many man hours to do, utilizing things like AI and stuff. Now, this person didn't do that. I think they just, because this was like 7 years ago or something.
Right.
They just took the time. I feel sorry for them. They probably lost their job. But we can, I guess, enjoy the spoils of their efforts. But they analyzed thousands and thousands of these things and analyzed the text, and I'll get to that later. But just imagine, okay? Imagine you're reading this heartfelt obituary about somebody's like grandma or something, and all of a sudden it's like
followed
this
by
paragraph. We liked in loving memory of Miss Smith. Yeah. She was a mother,
Gladys Eleanor Smith.
Taught at the so-and-so elementary school for 45 years. All of her students loved her. And then a paragraph-long rant about key lime pie buried in the comments section. I mean, that's sort of the level of randomness that we're dealing with here. And then even like, someone posts a review of The Godfather, and then one of the comments, and see, that's what I want to make sure everybody understands. It's not just that someone's posting this fake obituary and it's only about key lime pies. It's like someone's going around the internet, finding a random place that they're able to write a comment.
Yeah.
And then posting rants about key lime pie. So at this, like already, if this is like just internet trolling, in some ways it's just hilarious.
Well, one of the things regarding like the idea that it could be like trolling is I think there was a point where...
Hey, save it for when we're talking about theories, man.
Okay.
Just
I mean,
remember.
I'm just saying like it's a long game though.
Oh, very long. And I'm going to say, well, that's why I say let's save it because
we'll save it.
I have some ideas about that as well. But because here's the thing. There's something else that's weird, and that's the names of, the sign-off, basically, of the comments. So the KLP poster doesn't always sign their comments in the exact same way.
Right.
They've been known to go by Jake Carson, Willie Jordan, this is my favorite, Roger Ramjet.
Oh, right, yep.
And a handful of other aliases. But in a little bit of a creepier sense, each of these names has a slightly different writing style. Just enough variation that people started to wonder, okay, are there multiple people behind this? Is this some weird internet cult dedicated to the memory of a pie that no longer exists? Now, I just did it just then. I kind of giggled saying that out loud.
Yeah.
But over the last week, while, just in the background while I'm working and stuff, I've been rewatching this documentary about the Love Has Won cult.
Wait, what is that?
Oh, man, if you want to feel sick to your stomach,
Is that like the mother love?
Yes, Mother God.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but
Dude.
I've heard it's crazy.
Absolute lunatics, man. And I'm sorry for the people that are in it, and maybe they're listeners of our show.
Oh, yeah.
But get out, man. I mean, like they're making their own colloidal silver and saying that it's got these, and then the lady dies and she's the color of a Papa Smurf. You understand?
I do take colloidal silver, so...
See, Tyler's in it. So
if
maybe
you are
Love
a listener,
has one.
Yeah, can I get in there? Can I get in?
Dude, they even show it's just like they've got this like Bunsen burner. Just stop. Okay.
Hey, real quick. Speaking of colloidal silver, this show is sponsored by.
No.
I'm just kidding. No. But did you know that? So I don't know if this is true, but I've heard and I read like recently.
It turns you blue. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they called like the Royals blue bloods, because they were the only ones who had access to this colloidal silver that would turn them blue.
I don't know if that's true, but that's an interesting fact. I'm going to store it away for the possibility if I'm ever on Jeopardy. Because let me tell you something else that's random, yet somewhat adjacent to what you just said that I learned from Jeopardy. So, did you know that back in those royal days, the reason why so many of them wore the color purple? It's not a conspiracy. It's nothing weird.
I mean, I know purple is like royalty.
Well, it was rare because they created this dye for the fabric from a freaking sea snail.
Oh, wow.
So it was like super expensive to get the color, especially that shade of purple. And that's why only royalty wore it. Isn't that crazy?
You know, I mean, this is probably a Patreon episode because like, I could see it being boring for like some folks, but I will say like we should do an episode on like, by the way, the stupid train is in the back. But we should do an episode on like colors and like the rarities and stuff back in the day. Like I don't think we now it's just like, we have access to any and everything. But like back in the day, like just to get a certain color of like some cerulean blue, you would have to go to, India or like, and so like, to me as an artist, that's super fascinating. I love it.
For sure. It's also weird too because we're used to watching these movies where people are just wearing all this like colorful stuff and they might not have been,
No, yeah.
Super interesting. Anyway, sorry about our rant here about the importance of watching Jeopardy because of the things that you might learn. But anyhow, where were we? Speaking of rambling and off the rails, that's right. So they would post even all these different names. The writing styles were slightly different enough variation, I guess, that people started to wonder if, it was a group of people doing this. And of course, some people thought maybe a cult. Or was it something weirder? Was it a single person that was deliberately shifting their style to appear like multiple people?
Wait, real quick. So I haven't seen this idea of like a cult. Is there, what aspects of this like sort of would lead to?
Well, we'll get to that too in a little while, but mainly just that they're just in some ways like praising this pie and its properties. And, because in some of those reviews, they talk about the sort of, in some ways, magical properties that they have.
Okay, I see.
And so, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like a holy grail.
Yeah, right.
Kind of thing, yeah.
And again, doing something like this nowadays would be so much easier because you've got AI. You can just tell AI to write it for you in 50 different styles. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But this is way before that. So someone's either doing this solo, taking the time to do it, and, in their free time, whenever they get that free AOL disc in the mail, they're like, yes, this is the week.
This is it.
Okay. Yep. And then they hear, the famous modem sound, which sounds like this for those of you that don't remember.
Classic.
The comments themselves would range from relatively normal-sounding, nostalgia-filled stories about the restaurant to absolute, full-blown nonsense. I mean, rambling off the rails, free word association, word salads, basically.
It would be like Kerouac at the height of his benzo binge, leaving a Yelp review.
Yeah, and they're, creating words and stuff like piegasm, you know what I mean? That they would repeatedly use to describe this almost spiritual experience of eating this legendary dessert. Now, again, I've had some desserts that were like that, and I'm always, I've never had it. I don't know that I could say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm on the search. Then we start to get into these celebrity name-dropping situations. Famous people, so like the KLP poster insistent that a bunch of famous people like Johnny Carson, Steve Martin, George Bush, Christy Brinkley, Donald Trump, a bunch of these people were huge fans of Kuthchie's pies. Now, there's, as you can imagine, zero evidence that anybody's been able to find to back this up. And most of the time, funny enough, the names are spelled wrong.
Yeah.
Perhaps most of the strangest, most oddly specific fixation in all these comments is the near constant adoration of this guy, Captain Oswald Pelisse, I guess? Pelisse? He's the supposed owner of this long-gone establishment, okay? And then he's got this wife, Anita.
Yeah.
And when I say adoration, I mean it, especially with regard to Anita. They describe her repeatedly as just this gorgeous beauty queen of the key lime pie world. And they sometimes will write entire paragraphs about how stunning she is. So what exactly is going on here? Was Kuthchie some kind of secret celebrity hotspot? Is it the work of a nostalgic sort of ex-employee? Or, as some have suggested, is this a cryptic form of online guerrilla marketing for a restaurant that doesn't even exist anymore? Yeah. Whatever the case, it just seems to be some sort of wild obsession.
Yeah, wasn't there some discrepancy in if the restaurant even existed or not?
Well, when we get back from the break, I'm going to answer that question for you, pal.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Your data is like gold to hackers. They're selling your passwords, bank details, and private messages. McAfee helps stop them. Secure VPN keeps your online activity private. AI-powered text scam detector spots phishing attempts instantly. And with award-winning antivirus, you get top-tier hacker protection. Plus, you'll get up to $2 million in identity theft coverage, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
When you check out at the pharmacy, you see the journey from idea to medicine, thanks to our intellectual property system, or IP for short. IP safeguards inventions, like a new way to prevent seizures or lower cholesterol. And IP supports competition from other brands, then lower cost generics, which are 90% of prescriptions filled in the US. Innovation, competition, lower costs, thanks to IP. Learn more at phrma.org/IP works wonders.
Since you're new to H&R Block, we'll look at your returns from the last 3 years for any money your last guy might have missed for free.
I could get money back from last year?
You could. We'll find any mistakes.
Could have really used that 2 years ago when I dated that mistake for 5 months.
Don't leave money on the table. Switch to H&R Block and get a free Second Look review. Second Look is included at no additional cost with the purchase of tax preparation. Results vary. All tax situations are different. Fees apply if you have us file an amended return.
Hi, this is Javon, your Blinds.com design consultant.
Oh, wow. A real person.
Yep. I'm here to help with everything from selecting the perfect window treatments to...
Well, I've got a complicated project.
No problem. I can even help schedule a professional measure and install. We can also send you samples fast and free.
I just might have to do more.
Whatever you need.
So the first room we're looking at is for...
Shop Blinds.com now and save up to 45% on select styles. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Pretty cool place if you're a Martian.
Or a vampire. You think you really know what's happening around here, don't you? Is anyone out there? We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now, back to our show. Okay, so before we went on that break, you asked, what's the deal? Was this even a real restaurant? So here's what I found, and here's what I have come to sort of know. After kind of digging through these years of cryptic, nonsensical comments, internet sleuths basically managed to confirm, all right, that Captain Kutchie's Key West Bar and Grill was an actual real place. It wasn't some invented, thing on the internet. It was a legit restaurant located, of all places. Now, again, I would think this would be down in Miami or something, but it was located in Asheville, North Carolina.
Right.
It was originally opened in 1978 by Oswald Palesi Sr., later passed down to his son Oswald Jr., better known by the nickname Kuthchie. Now, by all accounts, this wasn't just some hole-in-the-wall dive. It had a distinct sort of Key West, Florida-inspired theme, which, makes sense given that Oswald originally came from the Sunshine State, actually. Locals apparently remember it as a place with a good, laid-back vibe, great seafood, and supposedly legendary key lime pies. What's funny is all of this sort of went down just prior to us being on tour and playing in Asheville, all the time when we were doing like the Southeast stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
And, if you're listening and you're not from this area or not familiar with Asheville, North Carolina, man, one of the things that they're known for is their amazing restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
And so it doesn't surprise me that sort of a higher end, really nice themed restaurant like this would have existed in the 80s and 90s. And been really successful,
Yeah.
But at some point in the early 2000s, Kuthchie's was sold and rebranded as an all-star sports bar and grill. Yeah. Unlike its predecessor, All-Star was less about the breezy tropical vibes and more about cheap beer and football. But even that didn't last long, actually. By 2008, old All-Star shut down for good. The location went dark. No more cheeseburgers, no more pies, no more Kuthchie.
Well, so the reason that I asked you originally is I ran across I guess like a Reddit poster that said that he remembered it being in Asheville, but then he actually spoke to Kuthchie guy, like the main guy.
Yeah.
When it was like going out of business, and him and his wife moved back to Key West. So, but there's like a lot of that kind of stuff. So it's hard to like differentiate. Like, is this just?
It's tough because nowadays it's pretty easy to anecdotally, go on some Reddit thread and then just be like, yeah, man, I remember that guy. He used to come over to my house and make me key lime pies, you know?
Yeah.
So you don't know, but it is interesting. And it's interesting that this was a real place. And you know, again, All-Star shuts down in 2008. And then a year later, this is when it all sort of quote unquote begins. In 2009, the first KLP comments start to appear online. It was as if someone somewhere had just refused to let go of this restaurant's memory. Now, I'm not going to lie. When Blockbuster was going out of business, when Toys R Us was going out of business, I would have done the same thing. You know, heck, maybe I commented somewhere and was like, man, it's such a shame that Toys R Us is gone, or such a shame that Blockbuster, you can't walk the halls or walk the aisles of a Blockbuster video and just look at covers for hours.
Oh, yeah.
And buy, you know, a single microwave popcorn bag at Blockbuster because you're not sure if you've got a box at home, and that one bag costs as much as the box, but you don't care because you're there.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So, again, this wasn't the simple, man, I really miss this place, or some lingering Yelp review. This was clearly different from the get-go. These comments, like I said earlier, were appearing all over the place. And they were unhinged. They were rambling. Sometimes they were oddly sexual.
Yeah.
They praised Kutchie's key lime pie in almost like this near religious devotion. They spoke of things like goody-goody cheeseburgers, like we said, piegasms, and fawning over Anita, Kutchie's wife, describing her as this undisputed beauty queen of the key lime pie world. I think I mentioned, you know, Steve Martin, Johnny Carson, George Bush, Christy Brinkley being, you know, the poster claimed that they were huge fans. Another poster claimed that, like, Donald Trump would fly in or have somebody, you know, get the key lime pie, fly it up to New York. You know, this is well before presidency and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, that also isn't too far out of the realm. I've heard about people. No, Ann's old stepdad who passed away. We ordered a freaking, from his favorite place in Chicago, a deep dish pizza.
Yeah.
And ordered it. And this was, I mean, man, this would have been like 2005, you know?
Yeah.
And we thought it would be like such a cool present for him.
Yeah. Never as good.
No, well, it was not as good, but it was, you know, it was good, and it was the thought that counts.
Yeah. Like I said, we've done it with, man, where did we do it? With some sort of like cheesecake or something. I can't remember what, but we've done that too. And you know, you get it, and it's like several days old. And it's
you didn't have a piegasm.
It did not give me a piegasm for sure.
Oh yeah, and also here's the main thing about this. It's almost like these posts, they weren't written in a sense of, man, I sure do miss. They weren't reminiscing. It was someone talking about this restaurant in the present tense as if it had never closed.
Yeah.
They spoke about bringing back hundreds of pies at a time sometimes. People making regular trips to Asheville, despite the fact that Captain Kutchie's didn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
And so this is when all these theories started to begin. But before I get to the theories, I wanted to read this post. Again, yes, this is a Reddit post, but it's, many, many years ago. And this poster says, I performed a text analysis on over 20,000 words of Kuthchie key lime pie reviews. And he just basically pasted all these reviews into a document and then ran these text analyzers. And he's got links on there. I'm not clicking it because I don't want my computer to melt. Okay.
It could,
but he writes about the analysis. And some of this stuff is sort of like, I don't know, in a way high level, who gives a crap. But let me just read some of this. So it says, it turns out that even though the sample contains 21,651 words, there are only 1,551 distinct words that exist. Now, this is what I mean. Reading that means nothing to me because I don't know what it's like usually. Here's where I like this poster because he's going to give us a little context. He says that, I have no idea if it's a guy or girl. They say that this is highly unusual for such a large amount of words. For example, the Wikipedia article on solar systems contains only 16,388 words, but contains over 3,800 unique words. Many of the aforementioned 1,551 words for the reviews or whatever were common English language names occurring only once or twice. However, the most commonly used words followed a fairly standard distribution of the 10 most common words used, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Again, doesn't really mean a whole lot, but it's kind of interesting. They also found that many phrases were repeated over and over again within the sample, like the phrases their historic key lime pie factory and grill, and non-standard spellings for words. So instead of grandma, it'd be like grand-ma and grand-pa, cheeseburgers with a space in between. Anytime anytime the key lime pie commenter would write something like, for example, he also wrote about Obama, but he would say Obamas and Clintons, and instead of millennium, would say millenniumon.
What?
Yeah. The text also makes frequent references to non-existent products and services. For instance, multiple references were made to a non-existent film known as The Tales from Kuthchie.
The Kuthchie comes up a lot.
Yeah, and it claimed that non-existent actors known as Johnny Carson, Don Rickles, Kuthchie,
Don Rickles.
Yeah, no, it's spelled differently though.
Oh, I see.
And Steve Martins all starred in the film. Of course.
What do you think the purpose of that is?
I don't know, man.
Like the misspellings.
I don't know. Maybe to keep from, this kind of starts to dig into like theories and stuff. If it is somebody that's just like an internet troll just doing stuff, because it's early days of the internet, maybe they think if they use somebody else's name or likeness that they could be sued.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Or maybe like it won't get pinged. If you type in like Steve Martin.
Yeah, it goes. That's a good point. Yeah, it goes kind of like it sort of gets buried deeper in the internet.
Yeah.
It says that formatting of several sentences and paragraphs matched quotes from public figures. For example, the quote, Captain Kutchie Pelez for president, he will put a key lime pie and a gallon of fresh Kuthchie in every refrigerator, matches the formatting of the quote, vote for Hoover, a chicken in every pot and a car in every garage. Huh. Boy, what a campaign slogan.
That's awesome.
The text claims that several celebrities regularly ate at the key lime pie establishment. Here are some of the examples. And I'm just going to read so that you guys can get an idea of just the weirdness of these reviews. So it says, Donald Trump loves Kuthchie so much that he often has takeout flown to him in New York City. Wow, he must really love those original cheeseburgers in paradise. We sure do. They have our vote for sure. Kobe Bryant may be retiring from basketball. By the way, basketball is spelled basket and then space ball. But Captain Kutchie's is still his pie of choice. The late, great Captain Tony Terracino of Key West fame was an old friend of Captain Kutchie Pelez. Together, the two of them sailed many adventures not known to much of the world. Cheeseburgers, rum, scotch, cigarettes, cigars, treasure maps, pizzas, chocolate bars, and key lime pies helped the two make history. If you can believe it, even Mel Fisher was known to hang with them. Now, here's another thing. Every single word is capitalized.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I mean, there's just it's just, I tried the Captain Key Lime pies, and those piegasms healed my symptoms within the first 4 weeks. I highly recommend Captain Kutchie's Key Lime pies for anything that ails you. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, this is all before, this isn't like a, politically driven thing, because it's long before the Trump presidency, for example.
Yeah.
We got to dive into some theories. And I know, like, if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, like, this is just, I don't really know. But, like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think when we start thinking about the reasons why, not so much like the who, because I think it's impossible for us to figure that out necessarily. But I think if we really kind of focus on the why it would be happening, that's when you can kind of entertain several theories. The first one that I think most people will have is that this is just the most dedicated internet troll of all time.
Yeah.
You know, and if so, hats off.
Yeah.
Especially how deep and wide it went. And to my knowledge, I don't think it necessarily, like, quote unquote, hurt anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just doesn't, it's hard to see, like what kind of narrative is trying to be, like, if it is like a total, troll kind of thing, it's hard to see, like what they're trying to kind of accomplish.
I mean, I think this. You know what I mean? I think it would be one of those things that we're like, dude, wouldn't it be hilarious? Oh, no. Hold on, dude. Come on. We did something similar, but we didn't even do it on the internet. We didn't even think about that. We should have.
Talking about Ethan?
No, I'm not talking about the fake name that we'd use to call clubs and be like, hey, yo, this is Ethan. I got this band here. They're called the Modern Society. You need to have them play at your club. Hey, let me ask you this. Are you going to be the first one to have them in your city? Or am I going to have to go to the other club? Because they're knocking down my door. Anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And you're welcome. But no, I'm talking about when we decided for some random reason that we were going to trick people into thinking that people down south called corn dogs corn horses. Do you remember this, dude? And we're like, yeah, man. Like we'd
totally.
Be like, the way our plan was, we're just going to call him a corn horse until somebody says, "What are you saying?"
Yeah, exactly.
And then we would explain, a corn horse is a hot dog wrapped in a cornbread saddle.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the reason why somebody would do something like this.
Yeah,
but just so deep that they're like, man, someday someone's going to see all these things and wonder what the heck is going on. And then they're going to be talking about it, and I'm just going to laugh my butt off.
It's just so much. It just seems like so much work.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah.
Like
this is a basement dweller living in their parents' house. They're 35.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? Like, so one of the things that I did find is that this restaurant supposedly was really close to like the Biltmore estate in Asheville.
Yeah.
And my wife's cousin married one of the granddaughters of the Biltmore sort of family, like the estate. I'm going to reach out to them and see if, he wouldn't have been around, the one that I guess by marriage I'm related to. But I'm going to try to get in contact with her to see what she remembers about this place.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really interesting is, and this gets kind of dark, and I'm not going to really get into it too far, but it is interesting that they talk about the Clintons and the Obamas, because if you know anything about Pizzagate,
right,
which is real dark, but it's interesting because this does kind of share
similar aspects, dude. I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and I was going to talk about that in this. Let's stick to the troll theory for just a second,
okay.
and then we'll get to like lastly sort of what we think about that and those similarities, because I agree. And I bet you didn't expect to hear that from me.
I did not.
Surprises all around. You leave for a week and this is kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Woody's conspiracy corner.
Yeah. If it is the most dedicated internet troll of all time, to me, the only way that's plausible is that it is someone that's just like, dude, I'm just going to utilize this new thing and just post randomly, because you just have that ability early. Nowadays, you have to sign up for register. And I think probably for this reason, because people ultimately, over the years in those first, in the few years of the internet being accessible to everyone, not just, some people or folks that paid for online memberships, but just everyone, college kids and stuff. Dude, we would spend so many hours just destroying our computers because we were just downloading so many songs on Napster and LimeWire.
Oh, yeah.
And you just have all this time and you're just like messing with people. You would just go and,
it was the Wild West.
It was the Wild West. And so I just imagine a group of friends that are just like, dude, it would just be so fun if we did this. And then here we are, almost 20 years later talking about this.
Yeah.
But the sheer volume of comments is just crazy. I mean, it's not, like you said, it's not just the occasional sort of here and there. It's like an army of people doing this.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of my thing. Like, is it just a ton of different people? Because, so one of the things that I've discovered is that, have you found the Instagram?
No, don't put me on the spot. What did you find, Phil?
Okay, well,
we will return after these messages.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
You don't wake up dreaming of McDonald's fries. You wake up dreaming of McDonald's hash browns. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase of 16 weeks, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Pro Savings Days are back at Lowe's with limited time savings on the supplies pros need. Get up to 40% off select major appliances. Plus, save an additional $100 on every $1,000 you spend on select major appliances. And don't miss your chance to activate and earn 3 times the points on select DeWalt and Klein tools. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/28. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See associate or Lowe's.com for more details on qualifying items.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now, back to our show.
There's actually an Instagram that's been around since so the Instagram actually, it says it's been live since February 2021. And it's just as weird as the other ones. So there's 602 followers, and then the little descriptor, which, I don't know, it shows like a little kid.
Oof.
And it does remind me a little of the Pizzagate stuff, but it says, ever wonder who writes all this crap? Me too. They should get some kind of award, kind of like a Hemingway novel, don't you know? And they're all just obscure, pictures of pie. But there's one that shows the sort of the classic, it looks like a little classified ad where it says Kuthchie's Steak and Lobster House, where eating is a pleasure and cooking is an art. New 40-item menu, 50-item salad bar. steaks, lobster, prime rib, shrimp, king and snow crab, soft shell crabs, trout, oysters, salmon, mackerel, red snapper, ribeye, sirloins, pork chops, ham, roast pork, blah, 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 blah. Brown bagging, beer, wine cocktails, live entertainment Wednesday through Saturday, old intimate candle lit atmosphere. All those things, none of those things go together. Serving dinner from 5 o'clock on Monday through Saturday. We honor all major credit cards. 10 minutes south of the Biltmore Estate. And then it has like a random thing that I've never understood that just says Jody's back. Have you ever, you know what I'm talking about?
Like, as in it's saying, hey, you know,
well, it just showed,
like an old employee is back. Is that what you're saying? Or
no.
Like they're saying this is Jody's like actual physical back?
It's like Jody 'S back. And it's like right beside like the little dragon. It looks like a Disney kind of thing. But here's what's bizarre about this. So we're still on the Instagram, and it says Kuthchie Pelez, and it says it's in Asheville, North Carolina. It says, hey, y'all, here's a little update for y'all. And this was I guess, this year, February 15th. Keep eating Captain Kutchie Pelez's world-famous key lime pies and those yummy, for your tummy, roast prime ribs of beef. And I'll keep my fingers crossed that you will win yourself a cool $1 million in the Captain's monthly giveaway. The infamous Chef Captain Kutchie Pelez. That's it. I just got it. It just popped into my head right out of the blue. I can't believe that we have all been so stupid for the past 20 or so years about something that was right in front of our noses. Elder, you hit the nail on the head. Can't you see it? Elder, called the mystery key lime pie man, the infamous Captain Kutchie Pelez. Can all of you morons see it now? It's just brilliant, Elder. Elder called Kuthchie Pelez, the infamous Captain Kutchie Pelez. Infamous, that's it. Infamous means more than famous. Captain Kutchie Pelez is more than famous. He's more than famous. He's infamous. And that's pretty damn smart if you ask me. Hell, that's in-smart. Captain Kutchie Pelez is more than famous. Captain Kutchie Pelez is more than smart. Pardon all the dots. No, they are not some kind of secret code or anything that I know of.
Dude.
It's so weird. But, so that's bizarre. But then you go into like some of the posts, and like, again, this gets into some of the Alephantis Pizzagate stuff. People are posting, they're saying, I wish I had some Kuthchie for Valentine's Day. I love key lime pie. The I and the E are capital letters. I love your Kuthchie lore.
Well, hold on. Before you do that, dude, because I think for some of those that, I mean, I don't know how they're not aware, or at least somewhat like myself, of like things like Pizzagate and stuff. That is the sort of last theory that I want to talk about, which is perhaps all of this is a coded message. It kind of leans heavily on that Lake City Quiet Pills type idea. Right. But before we do that, okay, let me just go through these other ideas that people were saying. And then I got to tell you this other thing that I found that is just nuts. Okay. Yeah, dude, like that kind of stuff, that's weird.
How weird is that?
So some people think that maybe it was a failed guerrilla marketing campaign. You know, one of those restaurant situations where it's not that Kuthchie sold it because he wanted to, but it kind of like there's a local pizza place here kind of close to my house, okay, that the guy that owned the building cranked the rent to force the pizza shop that was in there out, and then he put his own pizza place there and then closed it. Dude, this guy, if there was ever anybody that I think is freaking crazy and doing weird stuff, it's this dude. It's the Little Italy guy, dude. He sucks. He sucks, dude. I'm not joking, dude. He's opened a Little Italy location in Gainesville 2 times in 2 different places, and then like builds them all up, does all this weird marketing stuff, gets employees there, hires them. Then they show up for the first opening day, and there's a note on the door written in hand, taped to the window that says, unfortunately, we're going to have to close. Huh?
Wow.
Weird stuff, dude.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I want to punch this dude in the face because he took away one of the best pizza places there were. Now, there's another one in his place now that's really good, but still, dude, it just makes me so angry. Anyway, some people think that maybe Kuthchie was sort of forced out of this building, and by sort of writing these reviews, was an attempt to sort of garner a fan base and get people like fired up about it and be like, yeah, we need to bring it back. But it never reopened.
Yeah.
So it's like, what exactly were they promoting? And it didn't really work. Okay, so that's one internet theory.
But also real quick, sorry. I just need some clarification. But also all of these, any of these comments and like posts and stuff, they were all after the place was supposedly closed, right?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is the place closes down. This guy's just pissed off in the middle of the night. He's just typing away.
Yeah, just hammered.
And it just didn't work as a guerrilla marketing campaign.
But then he did it for 10 years straight.
And I
every
have
day.
an idea about that too. My thought is potentially, and I think several people kind of think this as well, is that it was started and then that torch was just kind of passed on randomly over time. People were just kind of like, oh man, I'm going to do something like that about this and just create random stuff, you know? The problem with that, though, is it still is random and as sometimes incoherent as it is, it still seems coordinated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
it doesn't
the
seem
thing.
as random. And that kind of gets back into what we're going to talk about lastly, which is the coded thing. But before we do that, another theory that I saw was that potentially this is the world's first AI chatbot that sort of went rogue. Now, as consumers and as internet users, we're more aware of AI and chatbots and stuff over the last couple of years, especially because now we as consumers have access to it. But as we know, typically when it comes to technology, we're kind of on the tail end of as long as we're able to use it now, we can assume that it's been around for many years previously, and governments and stuff like that have probably had access to things such as this for a while by the time it hits the consumer base, right?
Right, yeah.
So a theory is that that's what it is. It's probably my least favorite theory.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that it is potentially like an experiment. I'm not really, it could be, but that's the one that interests me the least.
Yeah, I also think that, I mean, unless you're talking, you know, something that's related to like possible intelligence or like even sort of military, I just don't think we had anything even close as far as AI that could, even as incoherent and like crazy as it is, it's still like the stuff that I just read to you seems, you know, how I read that review from the Instagram. Now that could be AI because
we're in that age now.
We're in that age now.
Yeah.
But even the stuff as incoherent and like nuts as it was back in the day, it all still kind of seems like a wink to the reader.
Yeah. And so now finally we're going to get to what Tyler's just been, you know, as you're following along since the very beginning of the episode wanting to talk about. And I'm glad though, because this is my favorite theory about this mystery. And really the main thing that interests me the most about it, because it gets into the idea that we talked about when we did the episode about Lake City Quiet Pills, where the internet itself, public forums and public websites were being used to communicate between someone, whether that is spies, whether it is weird perverts looking to, you know, purchase different things. I don't really want to get too graphic with it because it's just disgusting. For some reason, this makes the most sense to me because in a way, and I think I said something like this back in the Lake City Quiet Pills episode, as disgusting as it is or whatever, if it's utilized for any kind of sexual deviant.
Yeah.
Let's just, let me take that out of it for just a second. Let's just, for me to say this and be okay with saying it out loud, let me just say it's spies, okay? For a spy to communicate to me in like this, I think it's brilliant.
I do too.
Because then it's like if you had a secret code and you had like a theme such as Kuthchie's key lime pie, that would be the way that your counterpart would be able to find you and find what you were trying to say. And I just think that's brilliant, man.
Yeah, and also it's sort of a way that you could put out like this coded language.
Mm-hmm.
And because everything sort of seems so like incoherent anyway, that you don't really have to focus on any of it actually like making sense.
Right.
I mean, some of it like, some of it, I mean, I don't know if making sense is the right way to put it, but like some of it, like you can tell where they're trying to go with what they're talking about. But then at the same time, like, as a whole, it's like, what did I just read?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and there are a few, like on the Instagram one, there's one that just says, and this is, to me, this is one of the only other, I guess, people that I've seen where they're talking about another person that's like within their like club or like one of their cooks or whatever. It says, this key lime pie is for our old friend, the late great Meadowlark Lemon, all caps, rip old buddy, keep spinning those pies, dude.
Yeah, and then like this one too, where it says, now you know who is the hottest. And baby, let me tell you, Mrs. Anita is no act. She's the real thing, baby.
Yeah.
And so like, there's so many different ways it could be a coded message. Is this a place that like ran a prostitution ring? Right. Was Miss Anita the madam? I don't know if that's the right term. Let me tell you something else that's crazy, dude. As we're talking about this theory, if you right now, listener, obviously if you're driving, please don't do this while you're driving. Wait until you get home at your office, whatever. But if you're in front of a computer, live on the edge. If you're in front of a computer, or you could use your phone. If you use Google Maps and you type in Kuthchie's Key West Bar and Grill, it takes you. Not only does it take you directly to the building, okay?
Whoa.
But it has things in here like updates for customers, a picture of a menu, picture of food. There's this thing in here. There's a question and answer that was written a month ago, dude. And it says, a question says, where's your restaurant? The address is an old building that looks condemned. Is your location on Google Maps incorrect? I don't know if the question was a month ago, but the answer was. And it says, the answer, okay? Someone answered this, and it's got like a blue check mark by the store symbol for Google. It says, it's on the inside that counts, friend. Our building hasn't been refurbished since the late 80s due to the lack of funding and not enough customers despite how tasty our food is. The doors are always open, and we'd love to see you come swing by.
Huh.
Now, who the crap has access to this business account with Google, which isn't an easy feat? You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
Listen to this. Someone else answered a question a month ago. Do you offer live entertainment? Someone answered. You asked yourself a question you already knew the answer to.
Yeah, that's what's weird is it does have this vibe of like the people that are like in on it are like 100% understanding all of this.
Right.
I mean, just reading. And again, I feel like even like the Instagram stuff is, which honestly, whenever we put out the episode, we should tag them in it because I believe that it is the exact same person or people that are kind of continuing it because it's just so bizarre. And they keep talking about like the Kuthchie Readaville movie, saying that the Pillais guy is the most interesting man in the world. Kuthchie drinks those wonderful mixed drinks named in his honor called Kuthcheritas. They're a hell of a lot better than any Mexican beers and stronger to boot. That sunken ship in the news these days. It's been resting on the bottom of the sea since way back when. And then it gets into like 1857, Mel Fisher even overlooked that one. Yankee Jack and Michael McLeod now have reason to write another song. Hell, we can't even find Boeing 777 that's been lost only a little over a few months now. It's just like...
It's weird, man. And when you look at like the street view of that area, check out this picture of the building that's still there, and it says like All Stars. Because you look at the building and you're like, how is this a place?
I've seen it. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And then next door, there's like a weird beauty salon. All these buildings look like they were built, around late 70s. Mm-hmm. And there's like two little like houses nearby. I mean, isn't a stretch to me that some kind of prostitution thing was going on here, man, honestly.
Well, so this is another weird thing, and this is, here, I'm going to tag you in this.
Oh, but don't tag me.
No, I mean, not tag you. I mean, I just like sent it to you. But it says, in the 80s, Captain Kutchie Pelez was charged as a co-conspirator in a high-profile murder case. He catered his own trial with his world-famous key lime pies. All charges were dropped, and the judge apologized to Kutchman for inconveniencing him.
Huh. And see, I don't know, like, I wish we had like a link to the case, you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what we're talking about as far as like some of the darker stuff. And I'm gonna stay real far. I'm not gonna get too granular in like the specifics, but you know, when we were talking about like Pizzagate before.
Also, hold on, sorry. Mentioned Pizzagate, but then also what was the thing?
The Comet Ping Pong?
No, Jesus. No. I don't even know if I've ever heard of that one. That's the furniture website.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll let you know.
Like there's multiple of those.
The Wayfair stuff.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So this was the thing that there was a guy that was a writer for The Guardian, and this would have been 6 or 7 years ago when I heard about it. And I think I was kind of late to it even then, but I remember hearing an interview, which maybe on like the Higher Side Chats. And I think the guy was named like David Seaman. He was a writer for The Guardian. And he wrote this story that he had been investigating that had tied all of these random people to as being like the most influential people in Washington, D.C. For all you folks that are outside of our country, Washington, D.C. is like the epicenter of our political sphere. You know, it's where our capital is. It's where all politics kind of happens. And there was a magazine that put out, I can't remember what it was, like some big magazine put out, you know, the top 10 most influential people. And this David Seaman guy was like, oh, this is weird. Like, why is this guy named James Alefantis, why is he, you know, in the top 5 most influential people in, you know, because it had like Hillary Clinton, Obama, you know, these, you know, your political types. And then it had this random dude who owned a pizza restaurant called Comet Ping Pong. Well, he started digging, and I also dug. Now it's gone. You can't find it. But back at the time, like, you could go to this James Alefantis guy and his Instagram, and it showed all of these just horrible photos of, like, you know, like minors like tied up, looking like they're like drugged, like really bizarre stuff. And then all the what was even more weird are like the comments on all of these things that are like, I would love a pizza right now. I could really go for some walnut sauce, like all these weird kind of coded language. And so eventually it was taken off. This James Alefantis guy like took it down. Then you find out, like, with more digging, that this Comet Ping Pong place that he owned, you would do like a Google Maps and you would look, and there would be all these like, so there's basically like this FBI document that was put out a little before all this stuff kind of blew up. And in this document, it showed all of this sort of symbolism and coded language that you know, is basically how these people would communicate in code. So, like, for example, like a chicken would be a young boy, a walnut sauce was something, a handkerchief meant something, a pizza was a young girl. It's all these like really disgusting stuff. And so what was weird though is when this guy started digging, he also found that like a year prior to all this happening, that Obama had bought $60,000, supposedly, allegedly, he had spent $60,000 of, you know, government money to fly in hot dogs into the White House. Well, as we know, hot dogs is a code for
whoops-a-daisies,
you know, and but it says for pizza and hot dogs. The weird thing is, though, is once you look into it, you see that you're actually not allowed to fly in food like that. So why do you have a president flying in $60,000 worth of hot dogs and pizza? I mean, that's a lot of money, and it was like just for a weekend. So there's all this weird stuff. Then you also see that, this James Alefantis place did like multiple, Democratic fundraisers at Comet Ping Pong, which once you see this place, it's like...
How's everybody fitting in there?
Yeah, well, not only that, but it's like how are you, like, really, can you really, like, just imagine, like, the Clintons hanging out at, like, what looks like just a crappy sports bar?
Yeah, it's kind of like this place, man. Like, you don't...
Kind of.
It's kind of hard because, like, it's hard to imagine somebody of, like, high esteem or something,
right?
Or financially just super rich, or even just like a mega celebrity,
right?
And it's not hard for me to imagine Jimmy Buffett walking to a dive and being like, "Dude, this key lime pie is the best I've had."
Right.
But that many in this place, to me, it's like if you're that good, you're probably not getting shut down,
right?
You know what I mean?
Well, and also I think as far as like the Pizzagate stuff, the fact that this guy that owns this random pizza place is in the top 5 most influential people in all of Washington.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre.
And so like all of this, like Tyler was saying, I don't want to go through like what each thing represents.
Yeah.
But when you look at these...
You can find it.
Yeah. When you look at these, if you want that on your Google search, if you look at these, it's hard not to start to think that is the most plausible explanation in a way, because not only are they so seemingly random, but it's like the weird, like, yum, 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 talk about world class, and then Anita's just the best, blah, 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 blah. It's like, it starts to get a little bit on the very strange side.
Well, the thing about, I'm glad you said that, because, so here's another thing regarding the Pizzagate stuff that reminded me of is also around this time, you had the WikiLeaks stuff came out, right? And in that you have, and this is like official government documents. This isn't like forged, it's a fake, blah, blah, blah. Even though Google has tried its best to like delegitimize this stuff. But this is just a massive like breach of security as far as emails. And there's these bizarre emails between Tony and who's the guy? Podesta, John Podesta, and Tony, his brother. These people they're like some of the highest government officials. Like especially John Podesta, he was like Hillary's right-hand man. He has worked all through like in like the Bush campaign, all through the Clinton campaigns, even did some stuff with Obama. And I think he even continued doing stuff with Biden. But some of his emails got out, and it's bizarre because you see there's one where he's talking to Hillary Clinton, and he's basically saying something along the lines, and I can't remember the exact verbiage, but it's something along the lines of like, something bad happened, and we got to fix it, da-da-da. And then she says, I guess I'll need to sacrifice another chicken in the back lawn of the White House to ball. And it's like, okay, that's bizarre. Why are we talking about like one of the highest government officials in all of the U.S.? Why is she talking about sacrificing a chicken to a Sumerian pre-Canaanite deity called Baal, which if you look into Baal, the actual deity, and this is in Tyler's Conspiracy Corner.
We're getting real deep into that corner here.
Yeah, no, but the main way that you would worship that god was through child sacrifice. And so if we're looking back at the FBI file, like I said, there's a chicken is a young boy. I'm not saying anything happened. I'm saying allegedly. But then also there's this other stuff that the John Podesta emails that were leaked through the WikiLeaks stuff, where there's like all these like email threads where it's like, hey, we're going to be up at so-and-so's house on the weekend. There should be some entertainment. You'll see any names, like 3 like female names. And then it's like 3, 6, 11.
Anita.
Yeah, it's all bizarre.
Does it really say Anita?
No. No. Well, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah,
but it's all just weird stuff like that. And it's like definitely a coded language. But it also says like, I could really use use a pizza right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. Okay.
Yummy, yummy, which sounds like what you're saying.
Right. The hard part is, if people went through our freaking D&D group text thread, God only knows what they would, you know what I mean? So sometimes, now I'm not saying that any of those people are innocent. There's some weird stuff that's going on.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm saying is sometimes us, people that are interested in conspiracy, internet sleuths, all that, we can kind of make a mystery out of, in this case, key lime pie. Where I think this is kind of slightly different in a sense is, it's not in Washington, D.C. And so to me, it makes it even scarier because now several states over, or under, I should say, geographically, you've got a place that potentially is, doing something similar.
Right.
And
Well,
they still might have connections to, other places. And then it's like, if I'm using that, you've got all this money, you've got all this access to things to really boost up that secrecy. Why are you choosing to dive? You know what I mean?
Well, and the other thing too, and this kind of goes against maybe my theory that I'd had before, but what if all these names that, because you
Sure.
on the Kuthchie thing, he talks about like Clint Eastwood, Steve Martin, talks about Johnny Carson a lot.
Yeah.
All these like Mel Brooks, like all these sort of celebrities, but they're all like, they're named, like you said before, they're all misspelled.
Right.
So is this a way of, and again, this is all, we're just hypothesizing here. Is this a way to say, hey, these are other people who have enjoyed our services, but he's misspelling all the names so that
they don't get attached to it in a web search. Yeah.
It doesn't get pinged.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, to me, like I said, my favorite thing ever, just because it grosses, like people abusing other people is it's just the grossest thing to me. I just don't even like to talk about it past the amount that we have.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing ever is it's spies or, yes, folks, you guessed it, time travelers.
What?
Okay. I know I kind of pulled that out of nowhere. I'm surprised that you didn't guess that I was going to say that.
I did not.
Okay. Imagine that it's John Keeter.
You just said Keeter.
Did I say Keeter? John Teeter.
John Kutchie.
John Teeter communicating, or time travelers communicating with each other via this secret code that they developed in another time to communicate back and forth without giving up the ghost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, it doesn't have to be time travel. Let's just keep it back to spies. But I mean, still to this day, man, I got to say, I think that's a brilliant way to do it. Imagine that you're in another country. They've got internet access, but it's limited.
Right.
And you're just going to be like, hey, man, I'm just posting a food review.
That kind of reminds me of like number stations.
Mm-hmm.
I know
we've talked about it outside of the show, I think, maybe a little bit here and there, but we've never done an episode on it, and we should, because it's an important thing as well.
Yeah, it's another sort of weird, there's so many unanswered kind of aspects to it, but it's similar to where you would have these things called number stations where, you'd go on like some random AM radio station, and it would just be these weird like beeps, or it would be like sort of a digital voice would say like 1, 4, 5,
like pre-recorded messages or something, right?
Yeah, and they're all basically like codes. Well, not all of them, but like.
And then there was a smoke monster, and then there were other people on the island. We call them the others, and they started attacking us. And we found some hatches, and there was a button you had to push every 180 minutes, or. Well, I was never really clear on that. But the others didn't have anything to do with the hatches. That was the Dharma Initiative.
The idea was you do this, and you'd have a ship off the coast of like an enemy territory. You'd set up these number stations so that if you did have spies that were in under the cover of the country, they would be able to pull up. Okay, make sure you listen to AM station blah 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 blah, and listen to the codes, and then that like allows them to like know what to do next, or oh, well, this said 145, and 145 means I need to meet at this location.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all this like kind of weird stuff. So it is similar kind of to that with these, you know, these bizarre, like, the issue that I have with that, though, is like, I don't understand like these things popping up in like obituaries and all over the place. Like, what do you think that fits in?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that the person that passed away was, I don't know, maybe their code was like, okay, you got to look for someone with the last name this, and something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in so many ways, the second that I latch onto a theory, it's kind of easy to, you know, mess it up a little bit with this.
Yeah.
I'm kind of split right down the middle in terms of it being code language. No matter what, I think it's a coded message.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's either there's some spies and they've come up with a cool way to communicate, or it is, you know, weird sex people.
Yeah, I mean, I do think I hate it. And what's funny is, like, when I mentioned this to you originally, my brain wasn't even there.
Well, and you probably intentionally kept it away from me because I just don't, you know, I don't want to hear about it.
Well, no, I mean, I honestly wasn't even thinking about it. But then once you start looking at this, if you know any of the,
well, even some of the emojis, dude, that are used.
Yeah, right.
You know, there's only one reason why people are throwing an eggplant.
Or the drops.
You know. Okay.
One of the theories, which I think is actually kind of interesting, and it's a little more mundane, but there is this other theory that all of this stuff, like the Kuthchie, you know, you hear him talking about like Captain Tony. There's all these sort of ties that link to like Jimmy Buffett songs, like we were talking about before, and like
cheeseburgers in paradise.
Yeah. Like the cheeseburgers in paradise.
Goody
things.
cheeseburgers.
Yeah, there's all this stuff. So there is this other theory that all this stuff actually was first, but then when Jimmy Buffett kind of blew up and, you know, all that, it was sort of a cease and desist kind of thing. And then they just had people come in and scrub everything off the internet. Well, you can't always do that, especially if they're in like forums and stuff.
Yeah, or the Wayback Machine and stuff.
Yeah, which is interesting because like our band, like I've looked, I know for a fact like certain things that like we used to have, but then once we, you know, were able to get out of the label and all that stuff, and I had looked into it later, like there's like genuine people out there that called scrubbers that literally just go through and they completely scrub the internet of anything that you've ever done or, you know, had or whatever. So
looking at you, David Wallace.
We are looking at you, David Wallace. What was the other guy? The guy
Lucas.
Lucas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. Anyway, so I don't know, man. I think that it could be, I'm torn. I mean, I definitely think it's a coded language regardless. I think it could have been a troll thing, and then maybe it just sort of caught on, you know, by people like us who thought it was cool, and then they just continued it on.
Yeah, because I mean, it really is an easy thing to just keep going, like keep the fire going, and just make it just as weird, you know?
Right.
Now, as here's the thing, to sort of just wrap a bow on this thing, it's like, here's what we know for sure, because there's so much that we don't. And with some of these things, I know, even for myself, and I think this is part of the reason why for so long, just any kind of quote unquote conspiracy is just not in my interest, is because there's just so much unknown. I like to hear theories and stuff, but then after a while, I'm just like, okay, there's too much. For this, though, here's what we do know. Captain Kutchie's was real. There's a building there.
Yep.
The restaurant's closed. The comments started appearing 1 year later, and they've continued on. Now, apparently, by 2016, the original poster seemed to disappear, allegedly. You know, we don't really know. And, you know, beyond that, we're just left with more questions. And we could literally go down a million different reasons why. Ultimately, though, the reason why I wanted to talk about this today was it does bring me back to that old feeling of getting to a new city, grabbing the yellow pages and stuff and just having to thumb through and find a place.
Right.
And it's so funny because even that ad where it shows that little dragon and stuff, it's the type of thing that would catch your eye and be like, oh, this place looks cool. And you don't even know what it looks like.
But even that ad, like that's another thing that I thought of is like, even when it just says Jody's back off to the side, which is like pretty big font.
Sure.
I mean, if you're looking at like,
it's like, who the crap is Jody, dude?
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, is Jody's back? Is that some kind of like underground coded language for something?
And once it gets weird enough, dude, it's like once it gets weird enough, it's hard to look at anything about this thing that doesn't just seem weird. Even the menu, for example. Everything that they're listing is typical in a lot of ways. But I can't look at it without thinking, what does that mean?
Yeah, right.
You know?
Well, so here's another thing that I feel like, I don't know. It's another little thing that I found, and I ran across this in like sort of a roundabout way. But he also has like a DeviantArt account on DeviantArt.com. This came out, or this was started in 2017, and it kind of gives a little more than what we've ever heard. So it says the year was 1976. Fresh out of Vietnam, Captain Kutchie Pelez wanted more out of life. He wanted purpose. He wanted direction. He wanted meaning. As a member of the underground band Swamp Lion, he was a heavy metal pioneer. The band was famous for starting their concerts by going in 12 different directions and really hyping up the audience. They get the audience so amped up that it was just incredible. Their drummer, Hickey, just had his one stick that he'd be tapping like tap, 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 which that's weird because was he not the drummer? It just said he's the heavy metal drummer. Then they'd pull out all the stops and change it up by going in 24 different directions. They were famous for their ear slammers that just kept the crowds beeping. They had a very distinct style that could only be described as scarecrow playboys. And then it says favorite visual artists, Hieronymus Bosch. Favorite movies, The Land Before Time, Ricky Tikki Tavi, and Ghost Dad. Favorite TV shows, Matlock, Murder, She Wrote, 60 Minutes, The Wonder Years. Favorite bands, David Bowie, George Michael, Yankee Jack, Swamp Lion, Prince, Johnny Mathis, Matt Monroe. Favorite books, epidemically overrated teen paperback novels, IKEA instruction manuals. Is that like the Wayfair stuff? Favorite writers, Monica Crowley, Hunter Fox, Megyn Kelly. That's so random. Favorite games, bingo, hopscotch, Clue, Monopoly. Favorite gaming platform, a sidewalk large enough for a heated round of hopscotch or marbles. Tools of the trade, my fists, spells, and potions. Other interests, the overwhelming questions of both time and space.
What?
So maybe it is time travel.
Yeah. Oh, man. Just so weird, dude.
So weird.
And again, everything. Now, of course, whenever he's naming people, those are capitalized. But in those explanations, everything is capitalized. Right. So whenever it's like the year was 1976, the word the is capitalized, year capitalized, was capitalized. The whole sentence, everything. It's so weird, man.
Yeah. It's definitely got to be some sort of code.
Yeah.
And this also, I mean, this could definitely, like we've talked about, this could definitely get way darker if you tend to look at it in, in that sort of, from that perspective. But if you're looking at it from like a lighter perspective, to me, it even kind of reminds me a little of like the Andrew WK stuff even.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I will say, originally my thought was, well, there's no way that it could be one person that's just kind of like a lunatic. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you look into the Toynbee tiles, which, at this point, I've said this probably 1,000 times thus far. We will do an episode on the Toynbee tiles because it may be my all-time favorite early internet, pre-internet mystery.
My favorite thing about it is it has nothing to do with sexual deviance.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But to me, this ties with that because it shows how like obsessed a person can get.
Sure.
And I think that's definitely a possibility.
And not to say that this person was suffering from mental illness or anything, but in a lot of ways, if someone's manic or something, you can see where they just go bananas on, that's insensitive way to put it. They just
look at Kanye.
Yeah, well, God almighty. No kidding, dude. And it's sad, and it's a representation that is in the public spotlight, unfortunately for him, of what that's like for people. And it's real, and it can just go really off the rails. And if given the access to be able to just type all night long, I mean, I don't, it's a possibility. So all in, two things I hope you got from this episode were, one, key lime pie happens to be my favorite dessert. That is, there's no secret code there. That's actually just, I prefer it. I don't like cake that much. I'm a pie guy, and key lime pie just has to be my favorite. Second to that would have to be any of them, really. I mean, a cherry pie, a fresh cherry pie with a thing of vanilla ice cream on top, dude.
Mine is the sticky toffee cake from Antebellum. God, there's nothing better.
Yeah, I mean, I like Anne's better, actually, believe it or not now.
Really?
Oh, yeah. She's made it for you, right?
Oh, she has made it. Yeah. You may be right. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're starting to sound like one of these posts, to be honest with you. Okay. Folks, it's good to have Tyler back in here. I felt a little bit just weird talking to myself last week, but good to see you, bro. And
you too, man.
Let's get out of here before the daylight runs out.
Yeah, before Captain Kutchie starts calling
knocking on the door.
Banging on the door, yeah. If you've enjoyed this rambling urban legend, head on over to our Instagram, drop us a line, tell us how much you love us, and if you have your own urban legend or some other kind of underground pre-internet mystery that we haven't covered yet, we would love to hear it. We kind of consider you guys like an aggregate, because a lot of the show ideas and a lot of the topics that we do talk about a lot of times are brought up by you guys. I'm talking to you, Clay, and we love that. We really appreciate it. It means the world to us. Drop us a DM. If it's more long form, shoot it to thatwouldberadpod@gmail.com. And the even better way is if you want to tell the story in your own voice and have it possibly featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so over at thatwouldberadpodcast.com, where you can leave basically a voice memo, and we'll throw some sound design and make you sound cool. That stuff really means a lot to us. Leave a 5-star review. Tell a single friend about the show. It means the world. And even better than that, join us over at the Rabbit Trail, which is our Patreon. It's more of what you love. We're a little looser. It's recorded later at night, and so maybe even a little more rambling, if you can believe that. And I guess that's about it. Woody, you got anything else?
I think that's it, man.
Right on. Well, we love you, we appreciate you, and as always,
be rad.
That's the way it goes. My favorite song on the radio. sunshine. You were already dead before you became a ghost. You always said our future would be a parade of